Got it. We may be expecting one or two more, but I like starting on time. So the topic, in one proper noun expression is UiSang. And what I'd like to do, I'd like to start by reading to you. Do any of you have this or know this book? Okay. Yeah, Thousand Peaks, Korean Zen Tradition and Teachers, edited by Musang Sanem, who was actually an old friend of mine. And it's got a foreword by Zen Master Hae. So this selection that I'm reading to you is just 3 or 4 pages. And there's no better introduction of UiSang, I think, than these pages. The subtitle, UiSang, the Temple Builder, and we won't be discussing him so much as a temple builder, although he established many of the really prestigious temples in Korea. But of course, we're interested in him as, say, a philosopher. But this is on page 46 of this book, and it includes a love story, which is one reason I want to read it. You don't find too many love stories in Zen books. So he's already discussed Chajang and Wan Hill. And UiSang is actually a very good friend of Wan Hill. The two of them tried to get to China to study the Avatamsaka Sutra and failed on their first try. They were arrested by border guards. And when they were just traveling on foot overland. And so they were on their way back and just slept, out in the open. And in the middle of the night, Wan Hill was very thirsty. And he groped around, and we have a cup of water here somewhere. So, got it. And drank, and he said, delicious. In the morning, he sees that what he had thought was a cup was a skull full of rotten water and bits of skin and so forth. And he immediately threw up and had a great awakening. He said, mind makes everything. I don't think I have to go to China. And he set himself up as a teacher. He was a wild man. He was a tremendous scholar, huge output of translations and commentaries of sutras. But he, well, let's put it this way. He had a nickname for his trousers. He called his trousers no obstacle. In other words, he made out with a lot of women, actually got married and had a kid. All the time, he's a monk. So maybe we'll have a class on him someday. It sounds like a lot of fun. But now, UiSang. So the third personage in the very great trinity of ancient Silla monks. So again, it's Wan Hill and Cha Jiang, who is prior to both of them. Anyway, is UiSang, 625 to 702. So Tang Dynasty time, in China. And according to Samyuk Yusa, the collection of legends from the 3 ancient kingdoms of Korea, UiSang's second attempt to visit Tang China was undertaken in the year 660. So the first attempt I just told you about, and they had to turn back. And he'd received permission from the Silla court in Korea and joined a party of Tang envoys returning home. At Yangzhou, he was cordially received by the military governor of the province. So he had quite a reputation, even in China, at that time. From there, he traveled inland to Chongnan Mountain, south of Chang'an, capital of Tang Dynasty, China. And the mountain was the preeminent place for Buddhist studies in China. And it was here that Cha Jiang, whom I mentioned earlier, studied with some of the greatest Chinese monks of the period. So on this mountain, UiSang visited Chuyen, 602 to 688, the second patriarch of the Huayan school. So Huayan is the Avatamsaka Sutra, and we'll be talking more about the Avatamsaka Sutra. So at the top of the tree, there was a phoenix nest, and Chuyen climbed up to look into the nest, and his eyes were dazzled by the sight of manpo jewels said to have been emitted from the throat of a king dragon. When UiSang knocked on his door the next day, Chuyen received him with a special ceremony and said, in a dream last night, I saw the signs of your coming. So UiSang is really royally received in China. They discussed the doctrines of the Avatamsaka Sutra, and Chuyen was greatly impressed by UiSang's understanding of the subtleties of the sutra, even though UiSang had had no formal scholarly training of the sutra. It was all based on his own reading. And during his stay at Chuyen's monastery, UiSang developed a special rapport with Fatsang, the third patriarch, an effective systematizer of the doctrines of the Huayan school in China. And Fatsang had great respect for UiSang's insights into the Avatamsaka Sutra and continued to correspond with him after UiSang's return to Silla. So his reception in China gives us some idea of his character and his understanding of the sutra. One of the most endearing and enduring legends in Korean folk literature is associated with UiSang. According to this story, while in his teens, UiSang fell in love with a beautiful girl named Myo-hwa, delicate flower. However, before UiSang and Myo-hwa could announce their engagement, a search party acting on behalf of King Silla saw Myo-hwa and selected her as one of the virgins to be sent as a tributary gift for the Tang Emperor of China. UiSang and Myo-hwa were disconsolate, but nothing could be done. After Myo-hwa was taken away from the village, UiSang vowed never to marry and became a monk. During her journey to China, Myo-hwa considered her situation and decided that it was far better to end her life than be a concubine in the Chinese imperial household. While the party was traveling through the treacherous cliffs in Manchuria, she deliberately flung herself into a swollen river. The party leader, rather than risking a search in the treacherous waters, decided to assume that she had drowned, and so did not make an extensive search. A nearby fisherman, however, had seen Myo-hwa fall into the river, and after the party had left the area, was able to fish her out of the waters. He cared for her during her recovery and adopted her as his own daughter. Many years passed. One day, Myo-hwa heard that 2 monks had arrived in her port town from Silla. She could not resist going out to see these monks. One can only imagine her joy and surprise when she saw that one of the monks was none other than UiSang. This was UiSang's second attempt. We talked about the first overland attempt. This time he came by sea. Now, Myo-hwa wanted to return to Silla with her childhood sweetheart. But as UiSang explained, his situation had changed. As a monk, he could not marry her. He had obligations to the way of the Buddha and to the king Silla, who had sponsored his travel to China. His commitment now was to make Buddhism strong and popular in Silla. UiSang promised, however, that he would stop to see Myohwa on his way back from China. UiSang's studies in China took 10 years. During his return journey, he came to Myohwa's house to make the promised visit, but she was not at home. As the ship was about to leave the harbor, UiSang left a note for her, saying he could not wait and that he was sorry to have missed her. While he was boarding the ship, Myohwa returned home and saw the note. All these years, Myohwa had been weaving a robe for her childhood sweetheart. Now she grabbed his robe and ran to the pier. By the time she reached there, the ship was already pulling away. Seeing UiSang sail out of her life, never to return, Myohwa decided that she did not want to live any longer. She put on the robe and jumped into the sea. As she hit the water, the robe spread out like wings, and Myohwa turned into a dragon that followed UiSang's ship back to Silla. Upon his return to Silla, UiSang dedicated himself to the task of building a temple in the Daebak Mountains. From there, he intended to disseminate the teachings of the Avatamsaka Sutra, the Wa-Om Sutra, which he had studied extensively in China. He selected a propitious site according to the principles of geomancy, an old Chinese system which sought to determine the energy of a place relative to its elevation and contours and its proximity to running water. But there was a problem. The area, especially a large cave, was being used by bandits as a base of operations. Myohwa, now in the form of a dragon, levitated a huge boulder to the roof of the cave where the thieves had their den. Frightened by this supernatural phenomenon, the thieves fled the area and UiSang was able to build his temple. The temple, Pusoksa, takes its name from this particular incident, and Myohwa's floating rock can be seen even today to the left of the main hall. A shrine on the premises is dedicated to the memory of this legendary dragon girl. There's also a portrait of Myohwa in the temple, the original of which is said to be in Japan. So that's the love story. So Myohwa's legend says that after the temple was built, the dragon girl crawled under the main hall to serve as an eternal protectress of the temple. The head of the dragon was under the altar, while the tail was near the stone lantern outside the hall. A few years ago, researchers from Dongguk University, the Buddhist university in Seoul, came to Pusoksa and dug up the area in front of the main hall. They uncovered a large rock which had a resemblance to a dragon's tail, and dragon scales could even be distinguished on the stone. Whether this lends credence to Myohwa's legend or not must be left to each individual. Myself, I'm with it all the way. So, UiSang returned to Silla in 670. Pusoksa was established in 676 as his head temple, where he regularly held discourses on the doctrines of the Avatamsaka Sutra. During his stay in China, UiSang had written in 661 his major work, The Chart of the Avatamsaka One Vehicle Dharmadhatu, which is what we will be examining soon, and presented it to Chiyan as the quintessence of his understanding of the doctrine. So this chart, or mandala, and assume you all got the video with the chant and have played it, and you can see how it is very much a mandala in its design. Is the only extant work of UiSang's scholarship. He is said to have composed at least 200 other works. And it is one of the seminal works of extant Buddhist literature from the Silla period. All the subsequent systematizers of Korean Buddhism had relied heavily upon UiSang's schematic chart of the Avatamsaka Sutra and quoted copiously from it. Through the efforts of UiSang and his disciples, Hwaom, Avatamsaka. Hwaom is the Chinese or Sino-Korean translation of Avatamsaka, flower, garland. Hwa is flower. Middle of the sentence. The Avatamsaka, Hwaom, Avatamsaka theory became the cutting edge of all future doctrinal developments in Korean Buddhism. So this is not just any old document. For this reason also, it placed the Hwaom school in the vanguard of a direct confrontation with the iconoclastic Zen schools. That's us. During his lifetime, UiSang was a prodigious builder of temples. In addition to Pusaksa, he was instrumental in the construction or expansion of a number of major temples, such as Hwaomsa, Borusa, Nakasansa. And these temples continue to flourish and are among the dozen or so most important temples in Korea today. As the founder of the Hwaom school of Buddhism in Korea, UiSang left a more visible imprint on history than Chajang or Wonhyo. Just as it had done in China, the Hwaom school became the most important doctrinal school in Korea and was in the forefront of the struggle for supremacy between the Zen, Son, and doctrinal Kyo schools. This struggle has dominated the evolution of Korean Buddhism since UiSang's time. And I think we can stop there. There's another couple of pages. That's mostly what I wanted to present. Does any of that bring up any comments or questions? Okay, so here's to UiSang. We will now look at UiSang's Ocean Seal of Hwaom Buddhism, and you all have a copy of this. And I assume you all watched the video and saw the mandala's design in action, just wrapping around and curling back on itself. It's really quite astonishing. It's 30 sentences. So imagine, condensing this to 30 sentences. And that's what he did. It's actually an extraordinary accomplishment. So let's begin simply by reading through it, and just to have it in our auditory presence. And then we'll say as much as we can about each sentence. And sometimes there's very little that I have to say, and I'm hoping that you will have your own ideas as well. So it goes like this. Since Dharma nature is round and interpenetrating, it is without any sign of duality. All dharmas are unmoving and originally calm. No name, no form. All distinctions are abolished. It is known through the wisdom of enlightenment, not by any other level. The true nature is extremely profound, exceedingly subtle and sublime. It does not attach to self-nature, but manifests following causal conditions. In one is all, in many is one. One is identical to all. Many is identical to one. In one particle of dust is contained the 10 directions. And so it is with all particles of dust. Incalculably long eons are identical to a single thought instant. And a single thought instant is identical to incalculably long eons. The 9 times and the 10 times are mutually identical, yet are not confused or mixed, but function separately. The moment one begins to aspire with their heart, instantly perfect enlightenment is attained. Samsara and nirvana are always harmonized together. Particular phenomena, shi, and universal principle, li, are completely merged without distinction. This is the world of the Bodhisattva Samantabhadra and the 10 Buddhas. In Buddha's ocean seal Samadhi, many unimaginable miracles are produced according to one's wishes. This shower of jewels, benefiting all sentient beings, fills all of empty space. All sentient beings receive the wealth according to their capacities. Therefore, he who practices contemplation returns to the primordial realm, and without stopping ignorance, it cannot be obtained. By unconditional expedient means, one attains complete freedom. Returning home to the primordial realm, you obtain riches according to your capacity. By means of dharani, an inexhaustible treasure, one adorns the Dharmadhatu like a real palace of jewels. Finally, one reposes in the real world, the bed of the middle way. That word there translated as bed could mean platform, as a meditation platform. That which is originally without motion is named Buddha. In the diagram, Buddha is right at the center, right below the other word, which is in the precise center, which is Dharma. So if you look at the center, you can see Dharma. Dharma looks like a cross above a triangle and 3 lines going out to the left. And you probably all recognize the character for Buddha, which is right below it. So Buddha and Dharma are together in the middle of the diagram. It is an amazing accomplishment. It's 30 sentences with 7, all of the words are monosyllabic, so 7 words or 7 syllables, in each. So for a total of 210 monosyllabic words. Now, I'm in no position to say, yes, that really does capture everything in the Avatamsaka Sutra, because I am not a scholar of the Avatamsaka Sutra. But people who are say, yeah, this gets it. This is the real deal. So it's an amazing tour de force. And I'm glad we have a recording of the chant, which has been, chanted now for almost 1,500 years, and quite commonly chanted in Korea. I don't know that it's chanted in any of the quantum school of Zen centers. And I was thinking maybe we should resurrect it and start doing this chant. It just takes a few minutes. It's less than 5 minutes to chant it. Anyone interested in working on that? Okay, we got Charlie.
Sure.
Yeah. Anybody have any musical ability? That's okay. It's a monotone
Keep the
chant.
chant.
you know, we don't have to have a melody, or maybe we do. I don't know.
Yeah,
Um,
the tone, the chant itself can be copied from the recordings that we've got.
yeah, we could use that melody. Yeah, we could chant it just the way they chant it, or we could try anyway. And maybe we want to make some modifications. I don't know. And I don't know if this is what the recording that we have is like the way to chant it. But it's certainly, I like listening to it, you know. Um,
Stan, for me, the
yeah,
challenge the challenge would be in converting
yeah,
uh, the words into something. I mean, some kind of a readable format, so
yeah,
that
we
people
need to
can.
use our alphabet. We can't just leave it in Chinese characters, I don't think. But, with enough listening, um, if we had, let's see, it looks like we have 3 people interested, or did I miss someone? I guess just 3. I'm sure we can find someone else. In fact, she's probably in the adjoining room from where I'm sitting right now. Um, and, some of us could try it on our own. And then, we could decide if we want to do it, like maybe once a week at the end of regular chanting or at the end of sitting or something like that.
Wednesday nights has room.
Yes, I'm sorry.
I said Wednesday nights would probably have room to add it.
That's true. Yeah. Um, Now, we have the chant, and what we need is a good transliteration, and I could work on producing that. Um, I mean, it'd be nice to have a printed version, so you could really, practice it and learn it, or I don't know, you could just keep listening to it, the way it is in the Sino-Korean, and eventually you'd have it all. Well, let's keep that in mind.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, sure, please.
While I was watching this video, the YouTube algorithm was shifting me all around the different Korean chants. And
Wait, I'm sorry, the YouTube was doing what?
the YouTube algorithm has a
Okay.
way of lining these videos up, and
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
context sensitive. So the next one they sent me off to
Oh,
was the light mantra, a Korean version of the light mantra, which I read on Wikipedia is sometimes done by the Shingon in Japan.
wow.
Is is
You think
that
there are more besides those 2 even?
there's a lot more, I think.
It's a
Yeah,
lot more. It's all the
but
Buddhist chants you could ever wonder if any of our other chants were there. The Heart Sutra must be there somewhere.
probably. Yeah. But
Yeah.
the question was whether or not anybody in Kwan does this light mantra, which is it's only one line that's just repeated.
I don't know it. How does it go?
Oh, let's see. Om Omoga, Vairochana, Mahamudra, Manipadama, Jabara, Paraburataya Hum.
Yeah, so it's the Vairochana. Yeah. Oh, that's interesting too. Okay, we'll try to pursue this. Let's see if there's enough interest. It looks like we have 3 of us willing to work on it. Any questions at this point? Anything that's come up or that you're wondering about? Then we really should try to go through the translation and see what questions come up as we go through it, line by line. Oh, I did want to call your attention to one more thing. If I can find it. Yeah. So in Compass of Zen, one of the chapters, Zen Master Sung San, is entitled The Song of Dharma Nature. And this is what it looks like in the book. And he has, Zen Master Sung San has a 3-page essay on this. He begins it by saying, this is an excerpt from a long teaching poem based on the Avatamsaka Sutra. Well, that's what we're dealing with exactly. It was written by a very famous master, UiSang's, during the golden age of the Shilla dynasty in Korea. These verses are chanted every day in most temples in Korea. So by these verses, I think he means more than just this. And the whole thing is chanted in Korea. We just heard, we have a recording of it. But you might want to look in Compass of Zen. The title of the chapter is The Song of Dharma Nature, and see what he has to say, in his commentary. And I just want to read you one brief excerpt. This is from Zen Master Sung San. He quotes another passage, and the translation is 4 lines. It goes like this: the one is in the many are within the one. The one is many, the many are one. You can find this easily by looking at the chart. The word for one is just one horizontal line. And you can see in the left-hand margin, those horizontal lines. That's what he's quoting from here. So these lines state that time and space are the same, and they are one. They're also not one, because this one is completely empty. The one is in the many are within the one. The one is many, the many are one. That is talking about space. Everything is one point, and that one point is everything. There are not 2 separate things. We can think of it this way. Empty space is only one indivisible, but in space, there are many individual things: mountains, rivers, human beings, trees, dogs, cats, the sun, the moon, the stars. All of these things comprise space. Everything is part of space, but that space is not 2, because everything is contained within it. There is nothing outside of space. So I wanted to read you just that bit, and maybe it's gotten your attention. It's very easy to find. In fact, I have the page number. It's page 160 in the Compass of Zen. Anything else to bring up right now?
So,
Yes.
Stan,
Yes.
that reminded me of you reading that reminded me of a question I have. So as you were reading the Ocean Seal, I was doing okay with the many is all and many is one. And then we got to sentences 11 and 12 about that say incalculably long eons are identical to a single thought instant, and a single thought instant is identical to incalculably long eons.
Yeah.
And then I lost it there. I was doing okay.
And you're probably not the only one.
It's like,
I lost it there too. But the one and the many is what it comes down to. You can say incalculably long eons. It's a little more dramatic, but that's simply the many. So the many are one, and one is the many. Another way that it's phrased is that everything contains everything else. There is absolute interpenetration. That's another way of phrasing the teaching. I don't know if that helps understand any better, but it is another way of putting it.
it does, but I think when I start thinking about time,
About time,
yeah, because I think of with sentences 11 and 12, I think of it as related to time. And can you have complete interpenetration in terms of time also?
yeah, oh yes, that's part of the teaching. Yeah. So like one moment, contains incalculably long eons. But they're not confused or mixed. Just reading again from the text, but they function separately. If you really, really try to figure this out, it'll drive you crazy. And that's okay. No, it's worth grappling with. It really is. I don't know when, I can't remember how long ago it was that I first, came across this. And, I was, as most people are, and I think all of you are, you just think, my God, I had no idea. This is, part of Buddhist teaching, and a very distinguished part. I don't know that there are any other chants that have been done in Korea, like for the last 1,500 years. There's something about this that really deserves, I think, deep consideration and maybe really doing something with it. And I think we've agreed we're going to do something. And I don't know about, we have a Dharma teacher training weekend in Providence in a couple of weeks, and Judy and I are going. And I'm going to bring this up with some people there and see if there's any interest in, getting a little group together, to work on this. There is one other translation, by the way, and it's quite similar. And I have it here, but in my hand, but I've forgotten who the translator was, and I wanted to tell you. It's pretty close to the translation, that we're dealing with. Some lines are identical. One is the same as many, many is the same as one, but others are, a little different. One thing that it clarifies is verse 13, the 9 times and the 10 times, that verse are mutually identical, yet are not confused or mixed. So the 9 times are, let's see, it's, no, I can't quite remember, I'm sorry. The 9 times and then finally one more, so there's 10. I'll look that up, and I'll write each of you what I'm talking about.
How about line 24?
I'm sorry?
Is line
Shadow
24?
of Jews benefiting all sentient beings fills all of empty space. That's a beautiful image, don't you think?
That's not 24 on the screen that I can.
I'm sorry. Oh,
It's
no,
beautiful,
I got
yeah.
it now.
Yes.
24, and without stopping, is that it? Is that the line?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, so, and without stopping ignorance, it cannot be obtained. So you have to include the previous line. Well, one who practices, Zen contemplation, returns to the primordial realm, and without stopping ignorance, it cannot be obtained. So the primordial realm, your original nature, the whole world's original nature, cannot be obtained. It's what being stated here. Did you have a specific question about it?
Well, yeah, if I could make a point and a question, I looked closely at the characters for Chinese characters for
Yeah,
20, and
yeah,
I thought that it was difficult to translate the characters into this particular reading.
yeah.
And uh, yeah,
um,
the comment was about what you just said about 23 and 24 being linked lines, so that you should read them
yeah,
together.
yeah.
A Chinese text that I found,
Uh-huh.
Huayan Lotus Society in Taipei,
Yeah.
actually they actually gave additional structure for the lines, saying that it was couplets,
Oh,
that
yeah,
the were
couplets,
all,
really.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. That's how it's presented right here, right?
Well, no, because of the
I think, aren't
punctuation.
they all couplets?
The punctuation is different. Like I'll post into the chat some
Oh,
of,
for instance, number one is two lines, and number two is two lines.
well,
Number three is
actually they had it arranged in quatrains, and the seven
oh, in
character,
quatrains.
yes,
That's
the
interesting.
seven character quatrain is actually a form in Chinese poetry.
Yes,
So
yes, I know.
so
Sure.
there might be some. I
Yeah,
just posted into the chat what the first line looks like.
yeah.
And
Okay,
then
good. Yeah.
and then it goes on. There's not a perfect divisibility by four, so the poem in this, matrix encoding,
I'm sorry. Could you repeat that? There's not what?
the number of lines is not perfectly divisible by four. So it
No,
goes,
it's yeah, no, of course not.
so there's two left over at the end.
Yeah, so it's 30 couplets, right?
Mhm. So it goes 28 of them in this particular writing were written down as quatrains, and then at the end, the last two were,
So it wasn't all quatrains. There were
it was mostly quatrains, and then
mostly quatrains with
a couplet at the end.
how many lines not including the quatrains?
At the end, there's two lines left
Oh,
over.
just two lines at the end. Yeah.
But I don't know if that's right. I mean, there's the diagram itself,
Yeah.
it
That
doesn't
has no
say,
indication that it should be divided like that. No.
and I'm not good enough at reading to understand like rhyming or any of the other tonal clues that would say whether or not the quatrain
Yeah,
structure.
and it's very common for Chinese verse to rhyme, which struck me as strange when I first learned that. Um, when you listen to the recording, does any of this become clearer?
Well, I mean, I guess the recording has, some extra level there that the Chinese characters are being read in Korean, right?
It's a slightly different pronunciation. Yeah, yeah, that's
But
true.
also with things like this, it's really difficult to imagine so many years in the past what the sounds were like anyways, because
Well,
they
of
could.
course, yeah, I'm very familiar with that. Same thing is true of classical Greek and Latin and so forth. Um, so we do the best we can. I kind of like the recording that we have, and we do know that it's comes from a long tradition. It wasn't just like made up in the past few years or something like that. And but over the course of 1,500 years, there can be a lot of divergence and changes. Um, but pretty much what we have here is the original text to work with. In other words, it was arranged like this from the beginning. Um, let's see, we're
That seems to be a rarity in itself,
what is that?
to have the original text and not any question about it.
Yeah, it is. This is something that's really precious. Um, and we've made a good start with it, and we may actually continue working with it, some of us. I don't know if you all have the translation here. I have one other translation. It's do not rely on this one at all, and the two of them are very close. So I don't think there's really any point in discussing maybe some slight differences in the wording. I think this is a text that has been studied a lot and is very well understood. I'm trying to remember how I was introduced to it. I have notes that go back 10 years, so it was a long time ago, but I really don't remember how it first came to my attention. Are there any of the couplets that you'd like to discuss? It would take hours to discuss each one. And so
I
when
have
we
a
selected-
question, if I may.
Yes, sure.
In line 9, the couplet 9, in one particle of dust is contained the 10 directions, so it is with all particles of dust. The word particle, which is, I'm really understanding and grabbing onto. Line 17, particular phenomena. Is
Yeah.
that particular, particle-like, or is it discrete phenomena? The word particular, does it refer back to particle, or does it take on the
I don't
meaning
think, no, I think it just means what it usually means. I don't think it
discrete? Okay,
refers back to particle.
okay,
I would translate it all grains of dust,
okay.
although all particles of dust does have 7 syllables. It has that going for it. It's just
Yeah.
like the original. Yeah, it is something you can stay with for a long time. And the 9 times and the 10 times. The 9 times, let me see, I think I have I guess I don't. It's the past of the past, the present of the past, and the future of the past. That's 3. It's the past of the present of the present, and the future of the present. That's 6. And the present of the future, it's the past of the future, the present of the future. And then you get 9. And then somehow you glom them all together, and you have 10. So that's what the 9 and the 9 times and the 10 times. Actually, there's only one 10 time, but there are 9 times. That's what it's a reference to. So it's past, present, and future all completely intersect and contain each other. And the
speaking of
metaphysics of this is heavy on mutual containment. Everything, I wouldn't say it gloms together. It's a little more meticulous than that. Sorry, what were you saying?
well, about the past and the present. The last class that we were doing, Denise may not have been here, but maybe you already know this. It was about the Sandokai, and this line 17 about particular phenomena and universal principle is also one of the main themes in the Sandokai.
Right, exactly. Yeah. It's nice to see that there's some overlap, isn't it?
I have
And
a question on 9, where it talks about in the one particle of dust is
I'm
contained
sorry, where
in
is
directions.
which line is it?
9 and 10, back to 9 and 10.
Yeah,
Particle of dust is contained in 10 directions, and so is it with all particles of dust. The
Right.
word dust is that, I consider, I'm assuming, or maybe I shouldn't be assuming this, but dust, like the mirror has dust on it, dust referring to our ignorances, perhaps. And
oh,
so,
I see. I don't think it has that connotation.
or is it, no? Okay.
It's more like almost like physics. I think you could, well, of course, it's a much later developed. You could put atoms there just as well. Although that concept, is not around in the year 700. So I don't think it's like dust as dirt, but just as very fine grains of whatever. Looking at the other translation, yeah, it's dust in both translations. Anything else to bring up?
I will just, I really, lines, the 21, the couplet 21 hit me.
Mm-hmm.
The shower of jewels benefiting all sentient beings fills all of empty space. I mean,
Yeah,
it's just really cool. But then as I was thinking about it more too, that really hits me as reminiscent of the beginning of the Avatamsaka Sutra, when
yeah,
it's describing everybody gathered there and it's all of this all together under one umbrella.
yeah. That's a good point, and it may be taken from there or inspired by the passage that you're thinking of. The Avatamsaka Sutra absolutely is the basic text, for certainly for this poem, and it was the text that UiSang held to be most important.
What does the other, what
He
does
went
your
to
other,
China to study with the great experts on the Avatamsaka Sutra.
how does your other translation translate the shower of jewels?
It's hard for me to find my way around the other translation, but let
Oh,
me
sorry.
let me try. Which line is that?
21.
Seems to be missing a page now. Where did that go? I'm sorry, I'm fumbling around here.
I put you on the spot, sorry.
How's the line go again in the translation you have?
This shower of jewels.
Imagination. Like jewels raining down from an empty sky is how this translation has it.
Jewels raining down from an empty sky.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, so empty sky is not in this text, right?
No, the closest is it says fills all of empty space, but that's not the same
From an
thing.
empty sky filled. Yeah, in one version it's filling the space, and in another version it's falling down from the space.
Right.
Which one do you like? Apparently you can have your choice.
I like the one that you sent us.
Okay. Yes. Anything else?
I had one other technical question.
What's that?
In line 3, it's talking about forms, but again, I was looking at the characters and I think they use a different form from Rupa, which is in the Heart Sutra.
Yeah, could be. Let me see what the other translation has. So that's it's the third verse, right?
Yes.
Let me just read you the first 6 lines, and you might want to compare to what you have on your screen, and then we'll include the one you're asking about. So this translation begins, the nature of the Buddha Dharma is utterly interconnected, indivisible. All dharmas are unmoving and originally still. They have no name, no aspects, no marks of any kind. Only fully realized wisdom understands this. Our true nature is subtle and profound. There's a considerable difference in the wording. You can say, well, there's pretty much you're saying the same thing, but there are subtle differences and not so subtle differences as well. I don't know that there is a translation that's besides, the two that I have. I know there is a third. I think that the differences sometimes are not reconcilable, which is a problem in a philosophical text, maybe not so much, in an epic poem, but the exact choice of words, is crucial. So we're noticing, those differences even with this cursory examination that we have here. So I wish I could, and I, my Chinese is look up every other word in a dictionary. It's, and at one point when I studied this years ago, and a long time ago, according to my notes, I pretty much did that, but I have not, I'm kind of dismayed at how much of the Chinese I once knew is just completely gone. Of course, I am 81 years old. What do you expect? So, I may make one final effort. This would seem to be a good text to work with. I can't imagine a text that for its size, presents so much to learn. Anything else you want to bring up? Everything you brought up so far, you guys, has been really, really interesting.
I'm wondering if there's a translation out there, and I can do a search on Google, but that has it word for word translation. So, each character.
Yeah. So that's called an interlinear, and
Okay.
I hope you find one.
Okay.
You can actually, if I can explain one of my methods here. Now that they have these large language models, which are processing a bunch of text from all these different
Yeah,
languages,
right.
they do a decent job at creating an interlinear translations. I put in the chat one of my records from ChatGPT, and you can ask them to get more specific and say, okay, now translate this line one character at a time. But the thing that you've really got to keep in mind when doing this is that it's a dangerous black magic practice where if you're not also going and checking all the results you get from your evil computer friend,
Yeah.
then there's a chance that you would be lied to and get a misconception because what the computer says from its popular opinion doesn't match what the dictionary has.
I've been suspicious about my computer for a long time. I know. See. No, thank you. Yeah. No, the way to do it is to find somebody who is really good Chinese and is willing to sit down for a couple of hours and talk about each line, each character. I haven't found that person. I haven't really looked for that person, but I keep coming back to this text, over the many, many years. And I used to do better with the Chinese than I do now. So there's hope. Anything else? we've come our allotted hour. I really appreciate you all doing this, doing it together.
This is great. Thank you, Stan.
Yeah, thank you, all of you. And we'll meet again in 10,000 years. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good.